It's been a wonderful panel. Thank you all. Many
Thank you all.
Many Americans view our policy in the Middle East with great frustration because it seems to have no impact or little impact. My question is really, what are the levers that we should be using that we're not?
Madeleine?
Well, I do think that, first of all, this is a very hard, I do not believe that the United States is a declining power. Let me just say that flat out. But what requires is to cooperate with other countries. Americans don't like the word multilateralism. It has too many syllables and ends in an ism. But what it means is partnerships, and I think that what needs to be developed is more international approach towards the Middle East. That's one part of the leverage, and we need to do that. The other is that our assistance programs are leverage. There's no question, and if you look at what the budget is and what Congress is allowing for what is known as foreign assistance, which is a mistake to put those two words together, it needs to be national security support, and that is leverage in the way that you give it, do you condition it. I also do think that we need to figure out which groups we support in a country, and the hardest parts is that the groups do not agree within themselves, and therefore, Richard, when you say rebel, part of the problem is there are these opposition and this and that, and so that part is very hard, and we always have various other parts of our national security toolbox, which is the threat of the use of force. But we need to keep all the options on the table, but also recognize that this is not solely our story this time.
That's where I think the key is. If you look at the kinds of things we've been talking about here, the question for political order and legitimacy in Egypt, the civil war in Syria, the possibility of instability in Jordan and Saudi Arabia, I would simply suggest that these are exactly the kinds of scenarios where the United States, where our influence is extraordinarily limited. That, we had more than 2.5 million Americans served at one time or another trying to remake the societies of Iraq and Afghanistan. And I would simply say we ought to have learned some lessons that despite extraordinary sacrifice and effort, there were real limits to what it is the United States can accomplish when our goal is to remake or heavily influence the trajectory of societies and political systems. And I would simply say, if I am right, then when I look at the next couple of decades in the Middle East, we had better be prepared for the fact that we will have at best limited influence, no matter what it is we do. So yes, we should condition our aid. Yes, we should say things. Yes, we should use all the levers of our power. But if tomorrow there's massive instability in Saudi Arabia, I would simply suggest that American options are quite, I'll use a generous word, finite. So there's things we can and cannot do. In Syria, again, we could do massive amounts of things that I would oppose. But no one should assume that simply because we do a lot, we would have a lot to show for it. The kinds of situations we're looking at tend to be the sorts of situations that history suggests resist the efforts of outsiders to meaningfully affect.